"You don't live here anymore, Mom." That's what my son said without even looking me in the eye, while signing the papers that sold the house his father died building. Behind him, his wife laughed. "Take down her photos. Throw out the old furniture. She's had her time." I watched strangers rip my wedding portrait from the wall, toss my husband's tools into the trash and tape boxes labeled estate sale. 30 years of blood, tears, and motherhood sold like a used car. And the son who once swore, "I'll take care of you," Mom took the money instead. Tell me, how does a heart survive that kind of betrayal? If this story makes your blood boil, comment "Hasson" or tell me where you're watching from. And if it doesn't, at least like this video, because somewhere tonight another mother is being taken care of by being replaced. "You don't live here anymore, Mom." That sentence still echoes in my bones. It wasn't shouted. It was said like a line he'd rehearsed. Flat, polite, rehearsed, to sound reasonable. Ryan stood in the doorway of my own home, his hand still resting on the doorknob as if afraid I might try to come inside. Behind him, Elaine hovered, the sharp smell of her perfume mixing with rain. The porch light flickered, throwing shadows across the SOLD sign planted crookedly in the front yard. For a moment, I thought it was a prank, some paperwork mistake. I'd just come back from the community center with groceries and a pie I'd baked for him. I smiled and said, "Honey, you're joking, right?" He didn't answer. Elaine stepped closer. "It's done, Mrs. Harper. The closing was this afternoon." Her voice had that bright customer service tone that made my stomach twist. I glanced past them into the living room. The same room where Dennis, my late husband, had spent nights sanding the floorboards himself. Now boxes were stacked everywhere. A man in a moving uniform was unhooking the family photo that had hung over the fireplace for 30 years. My wedding picture, my son's baby smile down in seconds. "Stop," I whispered. "That's our life. That's our—" Elaine cut me off. "It's all been arranged. You should be proud, Maggie. The sale went well." I looked to Ryan, waiting for him to say something, anything that made sense. But he just rubbed his forehead, eyes on the floor. "Mom," he murmured, "please don't make this harder than it has to be." Harder. I set the pie on the porch rail. Rain splattered across its crust. My hands trembled so hard the grocery bag slipped, apples rolling down the steps. "You promised," I said. "After your father died, you said you'd take care of me." Elaine gave a thin smile. "And he is. You'll be comfortable. We transferred part of the sale into your account." My voice cracked. "You sold my house. It's not just yours," Mom, Ryan said softly. "It was time. Too much upkeep." Elaine found buyers who— Lightning split the sky, drowning his words in white light. I saw his lips move, but all I heard was my own heartbeat. The movers carried the last box through the hall. One of them brushed past me and muttered, "Ma'am, careful, the steps are slippery," as if I were some stranger trespassing on private property. "Ryan," I said again, slower this time, each word heavier than the rain. "Let me in." He hesitated. Elaine placed a hand on his shoulder, nails glinting under the porch light. He looked at her, then back at me, and he closed the door. The click of that lock, it was louder than thunder. I stood there for a long while, the rain soaking through my coat, dripping into my shoes. The pie dissolved under the water until the crust slid apart like wet paper. Through the window, I saw them raise glasses, champagne bubbles catching the light. A celebration. My eviction party. A neighbor's porch light flicked on. Mr. Reynolds squinted across the street. "Maggie, you all right over there?" I managed a nod I didn't feel. My throat burned. "Just a misunderstanding," I called back, but the words barely carried over the wind. He frowned, but stayed where he was. In our town, people believed privacy was kindness. They looked away when things got ugly. I turned back to the house. The curtains were drawn now. Only silhouettes moved behind them, two shapes, gliding through what used to be my world. I thought about every morning I'd packed Ryan's lunch, every late night I'd sat awake waiting for his car lights on the driveway. How many times had I told him, a house isn't wood and nails, it's memory, promise, love. And now those promises were listed on a realtor's spreadsheet. I whispered, "You can't sell what love built, though." Even I wasn't sure if I believed it anymore. When the rain eased, I gathered the apples scattered in the mud. One was bruised, the rest I tucked into my bag. I couldn't make sense of where to go, so I walked to the edge of the yard where the old oak stood. Dennis had carved our initials there the summer we bought the place. The carving was faded now, moss creeping over the letters. D plus M 1989. My breath came out shaky. "You'd know what to do, wouldn't you, Dennis?" I said to the tree. A car passed. Its headlights swept across me, an older woman clutching a paper bag standing in a storm like she'd lost the world. Maybe she had. I looked down at the bracelet on my wrist, silver engraved for Mom. Ryan had given it to me when he was 10. It used to mean something. I touched it now cold against my skin, and wondered when promises started expiring. A memory flashed Ryan at 16, arguing with his father about freedom, shouting he'd never end up stuck in this town. Dennis had slammed a hand on the table. "You respect what's been built for you." I'd stepped between them, then calming them both, thinking love would hold forever. Now I realized sometimes love blinds you to the knives in your own house. The rain started again, gentler, almost kind. I turned toward Mr. Reynolds's porch light. Maybe I'd ask to borrow his phone, maybe I'd just stand under shelter until daylight. My fingers found the key in my pocket. The metal felt useless now, just another relic. Before walking away, I looked once more at the window. Elaine was rearranging furniture, humming. Ryan disappeared into the kitchen. A burst of laughter followed. It wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was casual. That's when it hit me they hadn't just sold the house. They'd sold the version of me that believed she was safe here. I stepped off the porch, the mud sucking at my shoes. Each step sounded like a goodbye. If you'd told me that morning my own son would hand me over to the rain, I would have laughed. Mothers don't imagine betrayal. They excuse it. They say he's stressed. She's misunderstood, things will get better. We build altars out of patience until they collapse on us. The wind tore a loose flyer from the yard sign and pressed it against my leg. In red letters, "Congratulations on your sale." I laughed then, a short, cracked sound that scared me with its edge. Somewhere a door slammed, maybe theirs, maybe the neighbor's. I turned down the street coat clinging to my back. Every house I passed looked warm from the outside lit windows, the hum of televisions, dinners being served. Inside those homes, people argued, loved, forgave, hurt, but at least they belonged to someone. I had nowhere to go except forward. The sky thundered once more as if signing off on the night's cruelty. I whispered almost to the rain he once promised to protect me. Now he was selling the roof that kept me alive. And the storm answered with silence. Betrayal never starts loud. It whispers. That's what I've learned in the quiet months since that night on the porch. You don't wake up one morning to find your child a stranger. It happens spoonful by spoonful, smile by smile, until the sweetness turns sour and you can't remember when it changed. I should have noticed it the winter before everything collapsed. Snow had covered the yard, and Ryan and Elaine had moved in for a few months, they said, to help me through my hip surgery to keep me company. I believed them because mothers believe. Back then, Elaine insisted on taking over the bills. "You shouldn't worry about paperwork, Mom," she said, that syrupy kindness, already coding her words. "Just sign here, we'll handle the rest." I remember the first time she called me Mom. It felt odd, but I smiled anyway. I thought maybe it was affection. Now I know it was ownership. That day she sat at the kitchen table tapping her pen while I poured tea. She placed the folder between us. "It's just an update for the home insurance," she said. I signed without reading because that's what trust looks like when you're tired. The kettle whistled. She looked at me over the steam, eyes soft. "You've done enough, Maggie. Just relax. Let us take care of you." I laughed. "You sound like Ryan." She smiled wider. "Exactly." The snow outside thickened. The house felt warm, but something inside me had started to chill. That night, I found her in the study going through Dennis's old files. "Looking for the tax receipts," she said quickly, but her hand hovered over the drawer marked property deeds. I wanted to believe her, so I did. When Ryan came home, he hugged her from behind. They looked like every young couple, busy, ambitious, modern. He asked Mom, "Did you take your meds?" I nodded. He smiled, relieved. "Good. You worry too much." That's what he always said now, "You worry too much." Like my concern had become a flaw. On Christmas Eve, I baked his father's favorite pie. The smell of cinnamon and butter filled the kitchen. I waited for Ryan to tell me it tasted just like old times, but he barely took a bite. Elaine said, "We're trying to eat cleaner this year." Cleaner. The word landed like a slap. As if our memories were grease she needed to scrub away. She hung new curtains without asking, changed the tablecloth, even moved Dennis's armchair to the garage. "We'll donate it," she told me. "It's too old." I felt something twist inside me. Then a quiet protest I swallowed down with my tea. One evening, Mr. Reynolds stopped by to return a casserole dish. "Saw a real estate agent parked out front last week," he mentioned casually. "Hope you're not planning to sell Maggie. This house, your husband built it with pride." I laughed it off. Of course not. But Elaine, standing behind me, smiled politely and said, "Oh, we just like to stay informed about the market." That night, when I passed the dining room, I caught a whisper. "Once she signs that we can finally move forward," Elaine said. "Don't call it that." Ryan replied quietly. "What else would you call it?" My chest tightened. I told myself I must have misheard. Mothers invent lies to protect their hearts. Weeks passed. The snow melted, leaving the yard soggy and bare. I noticed envelopes arriving, addressed to both Ryan and Elaine Harper. "Not a single one," said Maggie. When I asked, Elaine waved it off. "Joint accounts, Mom. Just easier this way." Easier. Another word she loved. Everything that erased me was easier. One morning while cleaning, I found a printed email on the desk. Subject: transfer approved. Harper residence. The date made no sense. I hadn't authorized anything. I hadn't even opened my laptop in weeks. When I confronted Ryan that night, he looked tired. "Mom, Elaine takes care of the finances now. You gave her permission." "I did." He nodded, already halfway out of the room. "Yes, you signed." I stood there, the air heavy with the smell of his cologne and distance. That's when I remembered the insurance form. The one I'd signed while pouring tea. That single signature, the one I'd scribbled in comfort, had started my erasure. Still, I wanted to believe I mattered. So when they planned a small dinner for my birthday in March, I felt hopeful. I wore the blue sweater Dennis had loved. I even set out candles, but the table stayed half empty. Ryan was late, and Elaine spent most of the evening texting. When he finally arrived, he carried flowers, white lilies. My breath caught. "Your father used to bring those to funerals," I said softly. He froze, embarrassed. "It's what they had left," Elaine interjected quickly. We ate in near silence. When I mentioned wanting to repaint the porch, Elaine said, "Oh, maybe hold off on that." Ryan added, "Yeah, don't worry about repairs. It's not worth the trouble." Not worth it. They didn't even realize what they'd admitted. Later, as I cleared plates, I found a realtor's card tucked beneath the salt shaker. Lakewood Realty Confidential Property Assessment. I stared at it so long the edges went damp with my tears. That night I couldn't sleep. Every noise in the house felt foreign, the pipes, the creak of wood, the whisper of wind. I wondered if walls could sense betrayal. I woke before Dawn made coffee and stood at the window watching the snow melt from the eaves. Elaine's car was gone. Ryan's laptop sat open on the counter. I don't know what made me look, but I clicked on his email. The subject line glowed like a wound. Final sale projection, Harper Estate. My throat closed. The email was from Elaine. Attached was a spreadsheet listing expected proceeds and senior relocation estimate. Relocation. That's what I'd become, a project. I heard the door open behind me. Ryan's voice. "Mom," I shut the laptop quickly, pretending to stir sugar into my coffee. He sighed. "Please don't worry yourself with finances. Elaine knows what she's doing." "I'm sure she does," I said quietly. He left for work, kissed my cheek out of habit. His lips were cold. When the door closed, I opened the laptop again. and read every line until the sun rose. Each column was another nail in the coffin of my trust. That morning I sat at the kitchen table, hands shaking, and whispered, "They're selling my life one form at a time." And yet some foolish part of me still hoped there was a mistake, that they'd remember I wasn't an obstacle but a mother. I folded the realtor's card into my pocket, stood up, and looked around the room one last time. The chair Dennis had fixed, the curtains Elaine had replaced, the faint smell of his pipe still clinging to the wood. I should have fought back then. I should have called someone. But I didn't. Because when you love your child, you think silence is protection. I took one last sip of cold coffee and said to the empty kitchen, I should have checked what I was signing before it checked me out of my own life. My name was on the deed, but it wasn't my handwriting. The first time I saw it, I thought my eyes were failing me. The letters curved too neatly, the loops too graceful. My signature has always been shaky, with a small hesitation in the M. The one on that paper looked confident, almost elegant. That wasn't me. I was in Dennis's old study that morning, the light falling in thin stripes through dusty blinds. His desk still smelled faintly of cedar and pipe tobacco, like time hadn't accepted he was gone. I'd been cleaning drawers, trying to occupy my hands, when I found the folder marked Harper Estate, legal copy. Inside was a photocopy of the deed I never meant to sign. The realization didn't hit like thunder. It sank slow and cold, like stepping into a lake in November. I carried the folder to the kitchen and sat there staring at my forged name until the coffee went cold. The house was silent. Only the refrigerator hummed. Outside, the wind knocked a loose shutter against the siding again and again, like someone trying to get in. By noon, I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. I grabbed my coat and walked to Linda Price's place 2 streets over. She was a retired attorney once, a friend of Dennis's and mine. We'd drifted after he passed, as people do when grief changes the language between them. When she opened the door, her expression softened. "Maggie Harper, it's been ages." "I need your eyes, Linda," I said. "The legal kind." Her living room smelled of peppermint tea and old books. She wore her reading glasses on a chain, like always. I laid the papers on her table. "Tell me I'm crazy," I whispered. "Please." She adjusted her glasses, read the page, then looked up sharply. "This isn't your signature. You're sure? I've seen your handwriting 100 times. You make your G's like loops, not curls. Whoever did this didn't even try to imitate it right." I felt heat rush to my face. Elaine handled the paperwork. She said it was for insurance or taxes, something I didn't need to worry about. Linda pressed her lips together. "Did you give her power of attorney?" "No." "Then she forged it." The word forged sat between us like a gun on the table. I wasn't angry yet. I was numb. The kind of numb that precedes a storm. Linda poured me tea, her hands steady. "You need to check your accounts, Maggie. And don't confront them yet. Let's find proof first." I nodded, but inside a part of me screamed. They used my trust as ink. That night, I returned home to a house that no longer felt like mine. Elaine and Ryan were watching TV, laughing softly. I stood in the hallway, unseen, listening. Elaine said, "Once the transfer clears, we'll be done." Ryan replied, "She won't understand." "She doesn't need to." I stepped backward before they could notice me. My heart thudded so loud I thought they'd hear it. I went into the study, shut the door quietly, and turned on Dennis's old lamp. The light buzzed weak, but alive, like him, somehow still watching. I opened the laptop he'd left me. He'd always been meticulous, keeping digital copies of every document. In a folder labeled Legacy, I found a subfile marked Private for Maggie. My breath caught. Inside was a short video clip. Dennis sat at that same desk, his hair grayer, voice calm but firm. "If you're watching this, Maggie, it means I didn't get to warn you in person. There's a copy of the real deed in our joint safe deposit box. Keep it safe. And trust your instincts, especially when they tell you someone's too helpful." My throat burned. I touched the screen as if I could reach him through the pixels. "Oh, Dennis." I realized he'd seen it coming. He'd known kindness could turn to theft. The next morning, I called Linda. She arrived within half an hour, still in her robe, carrying a magnifier and her old briefcase. "We'll make copies of everything," she said, "and you'll get your hands on that safe deposit box." We spent the morning comparing signatures, matching dates, piecing together a timeline. The deeper we went, the clearer it became. Elaine hadn't just forged my name. She'd backdated documents to make it look like I'd given consent months ago. At one point, Linda muttered, "It's not just greed, it's arrogance." We printed everything and sealed it in a manila envelope. As she closed the flap, Linda looked at me. "You need to decide what comes next. Do you want to fight?" I thought about it. For 30 years I'd kept peace at any cost, smiling through disrespect, forgiving without being asked. But sitting there watching the proof of my own erasure, I felt something shift inside me. "Yes," I said. "I want to fight." That evening, I waited until Elaine and Ryan left for dinner. Then I sat at the kitchen table with the envelope in front of me. I ran my fingers along its edge, tracing the paper's stiffness. Proof of betrayal is heavy. It has weight like guilt pressed flat. I poured myself coffee, black and bitter. The window showed only my reflection, tired, older, but not broken. When they came home, I was still there. Elaine frowned. "You're up late. Couldn't sleep." She shrugged, opened a bottle of wine. "You should take something. You've been anxious lately." "I will," I said, smiling faintly. "Soon." Ryan looked at me uneasy. "Everything okay, Mom?" "Just thinking about your father," I said. "He always said a signature is a person's promise." Elaine paused mid-pour. "That's poetic." "Yes," I replied. "And some promises can't be faked." I met her eyes, then really met them. For the first time, she looked uncertain. They went to bed early. I stayed awake, listening to the rain tapping the roof. Somewhere inside the house, water dripped rhythmically into a sink. Each drop sounded like a countdown. The next step would change everything. At dawn, I slipped the envelope into my purse along with the bracelet Ryan had given me as a boy. I wanted to remember the son I'd loved before greed hollowed him out. Outside, the sky was pale gray, the kind that promises snow but never delivers. I started walking toward Linda's. The wind tugged at my coat, cold but cleansing. When I passed the mailbox, I noticed a new label had been taped over my name, "Current Resident." I tore it off, folded it, and put it in my pocket. A small, silent rebellion. I whispered to the empty street. If they could steal my signature, maybe they thought they could steal my voice too. They were wrong. By the time I reached the porch, my name was already off the mailbox. The new label read, "Current Resident, Current." As if I were a tenant in the story of my own life. That evening, clouds hung low and swollen, promising rain that had nowhere to go. I came back from Linda's, with the envelope of evidence pressed against my chest like a heartbeat. Inside were copies of the forged signature, the fake timestamps, and the video of Dennis warning me. I should have felt strong. Instead, I felt hollow like courage without a body. When I turned onto our street, a moving truck was parked at the curb again. The sight made me stop. I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But no, there they were. Movers in gray uniforms hauling out boxes. My boxes. My life. The world didn't end with fire or thunder. It ended with the sound of tape ripping off cardboard. I ran up the driveway. "What are you doing?" A man looked up, startled. "Ma'am, we're finishing the move out. You'll need to talk to the owners." Owners. The word hit me like ice water. I pushed past him and climbed the porch. The front door stood open. Elaine was in the hallway giving instructions, her phone wedged between her shoulder and ear. "Yes, everything by tonight. The buyer wants it clean before the weekend." When she saw me, her smile froze. "Maggie, I didn't expect you home so soon." "This is my house," I said, my voice trembling but steady enough. "Why are there strangers here?" She ended the call. "Ryan should have explained." "Where is he?" "Inside." "But please don't make this harder than." "Don't finish that sentence," I snapped. Ryan came from the kitchen sleeves, rolled up a look of defeat already on his face. "Mom," he started, "please listen." "No, you listen," I cut in. I know everything. The fake signatures, the emails. You let her do this to me." His lips parted, but no words came out. Elaine stepped closer, arms crossed. "You signed those documents, Maggie. Maybe you don't remember, but we have records." I pulled the envelope from my coat and dropped it on the counter. "Here's your record." She didn't touch it. "You shouldn't be snooping through private files. They're not private if they're forged with my name." For a moment, silence spread through the house, thick, vibrating. Then, thunder cracked outside, and the first drops of rain spattered against the window. The storm had been waiting for this moment, too. Elaine's voice turned sharp. "You're being emotional. It's unhealthy." I laughed, a sound half broken, half wild. "Unhealthy? You stole my home, Elaine." Ryan reached out. "Mom, we can talk tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" My laugh died. "I won't have a roof tomorrow, Ryan." Elaine sighed, exasperated. "She's tired. Let's not do this." "No," I said. "Let's." I grabbed the folder and threw the photos of the forged signature across the counter. They fluttered like wounded birds. "That's your handwriting, Elaine, not mine. You even made the same loop on the M you used when you signed your wedding license." Linda noticed. Her eyes flickered just for a second before hardening. "You're confused." Ryan whispered. "Elaine, stop." "Stop what?" she snapped. "We're doing what's best for everyone." I turned to him. "Do you believe that?" He looked down. The answer was in his silence. The rain intensified. Water streamed down the windows, blurring the world outside. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang for evening service. Elaine's phone buzzed. She ignored it. "You'll get your share, Maggie. The money's in your account. You'll be comfortable." "Isn't that what you wanted?" "What I wanted," I said, "was my family." She rolled her eyes. "You make everything dramatic." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You think paper and signatures make you powerful? They don't. People remember. The law remembers." Her mouth twitched. "You're bluffing." "Try me." For the first time, she looked uneasy. "We're done here." She turned to Ryan. "Tell her to leave." Ryan's shoulders sagged. "Mom, please." I stared at him, my boy who once refused to sleep without holding my hand, now unable to meet my eyes. "If you do this," I said quietly, "you'll remember it every time it rains." He whispered, "I'm sorry." And then he closed the door. The click was final, mechanical, cruel. I stood there on the porch, the storm drenching me, the envelope in my arms, bleeding ink. The lights inside flickered, then steadied. I could see their shadows moving, packing, talking life, continuing without me. Every betrayal needs witnesses, even if the only one is the rain. Across the street, Mr. Reynolds appeared under an umbrella. "Maggie," he called. "Do you need a place to stay?" I opened my mouth, but my voice caught. He didn't move closer. People here were kind, but careful. No one wanted to pick sides. Lightning flashed, illuminating the sold sign glistening in the mud. My reflection shimmered in the puddle below it, a woman small and soaked, holding what little proof she had left of her own existence. The wind tugged my coat open. Inside the pocket, I felt the cold weight of my bracelet. I looked at it, silver, dull, inscribed, "For Mom." The engraving was fading, just like the promise that came with it. I whispered, "You broke more than a home, Ryan. You broke the woman who built it." The thunder rolled in response. I didn't know where to go, but my feet began to move anyway. Down the steps past the mailbox, stripped of my name toward the street that no longer felt like mine. When I reached the sidewalk, I turned back one last time. Through the window, I saw Elaine raise her glass, Ryan beside her, both pretending nothing had happened. My heart should have shattered. Instead, it hardened. Because standing there drenched and shivering, I realized something. They thought the storm would drown me. But all it did was wash away my fear. I took a deep breath, lifted my chin, and whispered into the wind. They thought they ended me that night. But something inside me finally woke up. The next morning, I opened my late husband's desk and found a flash drive labeled, "For Maggie, if anything happens." For a long moment, I just stared at it. My fingers trembled before I even touched the thing. It looked so small, so harmless, sitting between old tax receipts and Dennis's cufflinks. I turned it over in my hand, and that's when I realized I was shaking. My house was gone, my name erased, but somehow he had left me a voice that reached through time. I plugged it in with the kind of fear you feel right before reading a letter from the dead. Dennis's voice filled the room, rough and steady. "Maggie," he said, "if you're watching this, I didn't get to explain. Keep the deed's original copy safe at the bank. Don't trust anyone who calls themselves helpful. The documents in this drive will prove what's yours. If something happens, fight." I couldn't breathe. I hadn't heard his voice in years, and there he was sounding like he'd just stepped out to grab coffee. My tears came hot and fast. "You knew," I whispered. "You saw it coming." The video ended, leaving only the whir of my old laptop fan. I clicked open. The next folder, files, named Property Witness Legal, and one marked Tanya M. Inside was an email chain between Elaine and someone named Tanya Mitchell. "Please process Mrs. Harper's e-signature manually," Elaine had written. "She's elderly and confused. It's better for everyone if we handle it quietly." The bile rose in my throat. Elderly and confused. That was how she justified stealing everything I had built. I needed air. I grabbed my coat, the flash drive clutched in my fist, and walked 2 blocks through the cold until I reached Linda Price's house. Her mailbox was half buried in frost, her porch light already on, though it was still morning. She opened the door before I even knocked. "Maggie, you look like you've seen a ghost." "I heard one," I said. Her kitchen smelled of strong coffee and peppermint. She wrapped me in a blanket and set me at the table while I explained everything, the flash drive, Dennis's message, the emails. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she said quietly, "Let's see it." We plugged in the drive again. She read each document carefully, her pen scratching notes across a yellow legal pad. "She left fingerprints everywhere," Linda said. "Timestamps, identical phrasing in multiple emails. It's classic fraud." "Tanya Mitchell's your key." "Who is she?" "Looks like a junior mortgage consultant," Linda said. And judging by this, she knew exactly what Elaine was doing. I wasn't alone anymore. For the first time in months, it felt like I had an ally. By afternoon, Linda had printed everything, 3 stacks of evidence that made my heart pound. "We'll contact Tanya," she said. "But carefully. If Elaine finds out, she'll bury this before it ever sees daylight." I stared at the printer as each page came out, thinking how strange it was that justice could sound like paper sliding across plastic. Linda looked up at me. "You're not weak, Maggie. You've been kind. There's a difference." I smiled faintly. Kindness feels like a weakness when people use it as a door. That night I stayed with Linda. The guest room smelled like lavender and old quilts. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing Dennis's voice again in my head. "If something happens, fight." By morning, Linda had tracked down Tanya's office number. "Let me call her first," she said. "If she's scared, she'll hang up on you." We waited, the phone on speaker. Tanya's voice came through shaky. "This is she." "This is Linda Price, retired attorney," Linda said calmly. "We have evidence of forged signatures on the Harper deed. Your name appears in the transaction log." Silence. Then a soft, terrified whisper. "Oh God." Linda leaned forward. "We don't want a war, Tanya. We want the truth." Tanya's breath crackled through the speaker. "She told me Mrs. Harper approved it. She said her son wanted everything handled fast before property taxes increased. I didn't question it. I just followed instructions." "Do you still have those emails?" Linda asked. "Yes," Tanya said. "I kept everything. I was afraid. Sometimes, fear is just guilt that hasn't found its conscience yet." Later that afternoon, Tanya sent us copies. There it was in black and white, Elaine's email trail, dates, and attached files, one labeled Final Authorization, M. Harper, PDF. The signature looked perfect because it wasn't mine. I felt both victory and nausea. Proof is powerful, but it's also poison. You can't unsee it. Linda placed a gentle hand on my arm. "This is enough to take to court." I nodded, swallowing hard. Then that's what we'll do. She smiled faintly. Dennis would be proud of you. When she said his name, I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in years, grief and gratitude tangled into something almost holy. I stayed another night. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, but inside the house felt steady. Linda poured us wine, and we toasted not to revenge but to clarity. You know, she said, I once had a client who forgave too soon. Said it gave her peace. Did it? Linda shook her head. It gave the other side time to reload. I laughed quietly. Then I'll keep my peace until after the verdict. When I went to bed, I slipped the flash drive under my pillow, as if Dennis himself were keeping watch. For the first time since the betrayal began, I slept through the night. Morning came like mercy. I woke early, brewed coffee, and looked out at the pale sunrise spilling over the lake. I thought about all the women I'd met over the years, neighbors, church, friends, widows, each one who had trusted too easily, loved too fiercely, stayed too long. I realized I wasn't just fighting for me. I was fighting for every mother who had ever been told she was in the way. Before leaving Linda's, I placed the printed documents into a new envelope and sealed it tight. Across the front in my own handwriting, I wrote, "Truth." When I reached the end of the driveway, the wind caught my hair cold but clean. My hands didn't tremble anymore. I could still hear Dennis's voice whispering inside me, not as a ghost this time, but as courage reborn. They thought I'd crumble, I said softly. Instead, I called a lawyer. When I walked into the courtroom, Elaine was already crying. Not from guilt, from performance. She wore pale gray, her makeup barely there, the kind of innocence you can buy if you know which mirror to look into. Ryan sat beside her face, pale hands folded like a schoolboy caught cheating. I hadn't seen him since that night in the rain. The sight of him made my heart stutter. I wasn't here to beg for love anymore. I was here to reclaim my name. The judge was an older man, calm, weary. He looked at me for a long moment, then at the papers Linda placed on the desk. "Mrs. Harper," he said softly, "you've brought substantial evidence." Linda rose beside me, her voice even and sharp as glass. "Your Honor, my client's signature was forged. We have digital proof timestamps, a witness who confirms the deception, and a video from her late husband warning of possible fraud." Elaine's lawyer objected, of course, but the judge lifted a hand. "We'll see the video." The lights dimmed slightly as the clerk pressed play. Dennis appeared on the screen, my Dennis, in his favorite blue shirt sitting at his desk. "If you're watching this," he said, "someone's tried to take what we built. Maggie, don't be afraid to fight for yourself. You have every right." The courtroom went silent. Only the faint hum of the projector filled the air. When the video ended, I saw Ryan's face. His jaw trembled. He looked smaller than I remembered. Elaine whispered something to him, but he didn't respond. The judge leaned back. "This is compelling evidence," he said. "Mrs. Carson, do you have a response?" Elaine cleared her throat, tears trembling perfectly on her lashes. "I only wanted to protect the property. Maggie wasn't well. She was forgetful, she signed things she didn't understand. We thought we were helping." "Helping," I said, standing. "By erasing me." My voice echoed louder than I meant it to. The judge didn't stop me. I turned to Ryan. "You promised to take care of me. I never asked for money. I asked for honesty. You sold my house while I was still living in it." He looked up, eyes glossy. "Mom, No," I said gently. "Don't call me that. Not yet." I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. Linda stepped forward. "Your Honor, our witness is ready." The door opened. Tanya Mitchell entered, hands shaking, clutching a folder. Elaine stiffened. Tanya spoke softly but clearly. "Mrs. Carson instructed me to process false authorization forms. She said Mrs. Harper was too old to handle her affairs. I knew it was wrong." The courtroom murmured. Elaine's lawyer paled. Ryan covered his face with his hands. The judge nodded slowly. "We'll recess briefly." When he left the bench, Elaine turned toward me, her voice a hiss. "You think this makes you noble? You ruined my husband's reputation." I smiled faintly. "No, Elaine. You did that yourself." She lunged half an inch forward before Ryan stopped her. His hand hovered on her arm, but his eyes finally met mine. For the first time, there was no defense, no pride, just a quiet, shattering regret. The recess ended. The judge returned papers in hand. Based on the evidence provided, this court declares the sale of the Harper residence null and void. Ownership remains with Mrs. Harper. Charges of forgery and fraud will proceed accordingly. Elaine's face drained of color. Her lawyer whispered something urgent, but she didn't move. Ryan whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom." I looked at him, the boy who once built me Mother's Day cards out of glue and construction paper. I saw the man who forgot what love meant. "Sorry doesn't fix everything," I said softly, "but it's a start." Some endings don't sound like triumph. They sound like quiet breathing after a long storm. Outside the courthouse, the air was sharp and clean. Linda stood beside me, smiling. "You did it, Maggie." "I think Dennis did," I said, looking up at the gray sky. He always planned ahead. We laughed, tired but free. That evening, I returned to the house. The movers were gone. The rooms echoed half empty, but it was mine again. I walked through each space slowly, the kitchen, the study, the porch where it had all started. I ran my fingers along the doorframe Dennis had built by hand. The wood was cool, solid, real. The sun dipped low, turning the windows gold. I made a pot of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and listened to the silence that no longer felt lonely. Ryan showed up just before dusk. He stood at the gate holding a small box. "I found this in the truck," he said. "It's your wedding photo." I couldn't let them take it. I took the box, my eyes wet. "Why did you do it, Ryan?" He looked down. "Elaine said we needed the money. She said you'd understand." I was stupid. I thought I was being practical. "Practical," I repeated quietly. "You sold your father's work, your mother's home, for practicality." He winced. "Can I make it right?" I looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Start by remembering who raised you." He nodded. "I'm sorry." This time I believed him. He left quietly, and I watched his car disappear down the street. The wind carried the faint scent of rain, but this time it didn't hurt. Sometimes victory isn't about winning back what you lost. It's about remembering you never lost yourself. If you've ever been betrayed by your own blood, if someone you loved made you feel invisible, unheard, disposable, you are not alone. We mothers, we women carry storms quietly, but even silence has power when it's finally broken. Tell me, have you ever been in Maggie's place? Comment yes if this story touched something real in you, or comment where you're watching from, because someone out there needs to know they're not the only one. And if you believe every mother deserves her dignity, then hit like and type Hasson below to stand with her. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe to Auntie Tales, where every tale finds its justice and every voice finds its way home. That night I took out Dennis's flash drive and set it beside a candle. "We're okay now," I whispered. "You'd be proud of how it ended." The flame flickered once, as if in answer. I poured coffee into 2 cups, just like old times, and sat in the silence. My hands were steady, my breath slow. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel erased. I felt written again, line by line, in my own handwriting. Because forgiveness isn't surrender. It's reclaiming authorship of your story. And mine had just begun again.